Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we are going to solve psychology's past paper. This is paper 2 from May June 2022. The paper's variant is 2-2 and it is for 1 hour 30 minutes. For this paper, I have already written the answers, but I'm going to explain the question and also mark the keywords. So the first question says, state what is meant by reliability. So it is for 1 mark, so you just simply need to tell in one word or one sentence that what it means by reliability. So it is the consistency of results or the procedure of the study. And question 2 says, explain the difference between qualitative data and quantitative data. So it is for 2 marks. So again, 1 mark for explaining what it means by qualitative data, and then comparing it with quantitative data will give you the second mark. So qualitative data, simply it is subjective and in detail, whereas quantitative data is objective and numerical. So now question number 3 says, Schechter and Singer, Two Factors in Emotion was a laboratory experiment. The participants in this study were all male. A new experiment could explore gender differences in the effect of epinephrine. However, the stooge may influence emotions directly in males and females. Now suggest how a difference between the influence of the stooge on males and females could affect the results about gender differences in the effect of epinephrine. So for this, stooge might impact the genders. Why? Because the stooge might make the females more or less angry as compared to males, which will result in the females looking like they're more affected by epinephrine, but in actual they might be just affected by the male stooge and not the epinephrine. So that is how it can affect the results. Now part B says, a second new experiment could include a stooge who claims to feel ill because of the injection. Now suggest how one participant variable could affect the results of this second new experiment. So it is because if there would be participants who would be feeling ill anyways, they might feel more ill than the other participants. So this is how it can impact the participants because of their own participant variable individual differences. Now it's part B says, explain one ethical problem with this second new experiment. So the ethical problem can be about deception, that the participants would be deceived as they might believe that the stooge is ill in actual, whereas he was not ill in actual. Now in fourth question says, in this study by Baron Cohen et al. ICE test, 8 problems of validity were identified with the original version of the ICE test. 2 of these problems were that the task involved a forced choice between only 2 response options, the 2 words presented, and the test included basic mental states. Now you need to explain why each of these problems affected the validity of the study. So first one is the task involved a forced choice between only 2 response options. So this might impact the validity because participants can get the answer right by guessing it by chance, which can cause ceiling effect. So it won't be reflecting their own intelligence, but it will be reflecting how good they are at guessing the answer. And then the second problem was the test included basic mental states. So again, such questions are very easy to answer, so it will not give accurate answers again. There is a chance of ceiling effect. Now part B says, explains how solving one of these problems improve the validity of the ICE test. So I have chosen the first one, the forced choice one. So what happened was the choice was increased to 4 from 2. So the participants could not easily guess the answer because now they were having more than 2 options. Now, question number 5 says, in the study by Milgram Obedience, the sample included range of occupations. Name 2 of these occupations. So I have written salesmen and high school teachers. You can write any other. You can write that some of them were laborers, some of them were students. You can write any of these. There was a range of occupation given. Question number 6 is, describe the use of open questions and closed questions in research using any examples. So you're going to get 3 marks for per explanation, 3 marks for open questions and 3 marks for closed questions. And for example, let's say I have written open questions allow the participants to answer freely in their own words. They produce qualitative and subjective data. For example, now you also have to give example from the core studies we have studied. So, for example, in the study by Dement and Kleitman, participants were asked to narrate their dream content, and then it says closed questions give a fixed choice to participants and produce objective data. For example, in the study by Canley, participants were asked to rate the intensity of the image on a 4-point scale. So this was an objective data. Now, question number 7 says Geoffrey is conducting structured interviews about people's use of social media. He is investigating how much time people spend on social media and how positive they feel about it. Now, Geoffrey finds that the time participants spend on social media is normally distributed. Sketch the shape of this normal distribution using the axis below, and you must label the axis. So by now we should know that our independent variable is always on the x-axis, and our dependent variable is always on the y-axis. So on x-axis we are going to write time spent on social media, and when it says that he found a normal distribution, when the distribution is illustrated on a diagram, on a graph, so on our y-axis we always write the frequency. So let's say over here, frequency of people who feel positive about after using social media. That is done. The x's are done. Now for the normal distribution, it is always a bell shape illustration, a bell shape diagram for the normal distribution. So that is also done over here. Now part B says Geoffrey finds that some participant might give interesting responses, but he does not explore their use of social media further. Explain one practical reason why using a structured interview means that Geoffrey cannot explore these participants' use of social media further. So one practical reason is that practically structured interviews include only structured questions, and they do not allow further questions to be asked. So Geoffrey does not have any other option. He cannot ask any other question, because he is going for structured interviews, which limits his option of questioning the participants. Now in part 2, you need to explain one ethical reason why Geoffrey may choose not to explore these participants' use of social media further. So one ethical reason can be that he is concerned about the ethical guideline of privacy, and asking them personal questions about their use of social media might break this ethical guideline. Why? Because some participants might be using social media for some of the reasons which they're not comfortable in explaining or giving to Geoffrey. Now question number 8 says, Felon is investigating teachers' attitudes and behavior towards students doodling. She has conducted a semi-structured interview and has observed the teachers in the classroom. Felon asks each teacher to rate how annoyed they feel when a student in their class doodles. Suggest a scale that Felon could use to measure how annoyed the teachers are. So you can choose any 1 to 10, 1 to 6, 1 to 5. It's up to you. I have chosen from 1 to 5, that one, which means not annoyed at all. You will have to give the labels as well. So 1 meaning not annoyed at all, to 5 meaning very annoyed. Now in part B, it says explain one problem with the scale that you have suggested in A1, including how this would affect the results. So it might not give a middle value or rating, so teachers might feel annoyed on a different level which is not present, so it might not give valid results. Now for part B, it says Felon is interested to know whether teachers show the same behavior in the classroom when students doodle as they reported during the interview. Suggest 2 reasons why the teacher's interview responses may differ from their behavior in the classroom. Your answers should not relate to the scale you suggested. So apart from the scale we suggested, we can write that teachers might not be aware of their own feelings. So they might underestimate their feelings. So it might be different when Felon observe them and as compared to when they talked about their feelings in the interview. And second can be teachers might lie about their feelings due to social desirability effect. So again, it will be different when Felon is going to observe them. Now it says if Felon find that teachers do not show the same behaviors in classroom as they report during the interview, this raises an ethical issue. Suggest why it could be difficult for Felon to follow the ethical guideline of protection. Ethical guideline of protection from harm when she explains the results to the participants. So it can be that teachers might feel upset when they are told that they are more harsher than they think, so it might impact them psychologically. So this is how it is that Felon is breaking the guideline of protection from harm. Now for question number 9, it says Tulip is conducting a study on social behavior in animals. She is investigating whether animals are more sociable when they're in a large laboratory cage or a small laboratory cage. Tulip has to decide which species to use. Now explain how one ethical guideline relating to animal would affect her decision. So over here she's talking about a species, so the guideline is related to a species that she should be taking this species which will suffer less and will go through less pain. So this is the guideline. I have also written over here that the guideline related to species is considered here, which says that she should use the species which will suffer less. Now Tulip is finding a median She puts her score in order. State what a researcher should do to find the median if there are two middle numbers. So when there are two middle numbers, you should be adding both of them and then divide the total by 2. Here is the answer. Now explain how Tulip would find the range of the number of sociable behavior. So for any range, you take the highest value and then the smallest value and then add 1 to it. So over here as well, she is going to get the largest and the smallest number of sociable behavior and then add 1 to it. Now part D says explain why it would be appropriate for Tulip. Explain why it would be appropriate for Tulip to use counterbalancing if she chose a repeated measure experimental design. So it is because so that the animals cannot get bored of the same repeated or repetitive procedure consistently, and they do not get annoyed or frustrated by it, because there is a high chance that animals might get frustrated during the bored procedure and they might not perform or participate in the study accurately. So this is why it is important and it is appropriate that she uses counterbalancing. Now, question number 10 says NFIS wants to investigate whether different types of shopper are more relaxed than others. For example, whether shopper with trolleys, carts are more relaxed than shoppers with baskets. Describe how NFIS could conduct a natural experiment to investigate whether some types of shopper are more relaxed than other types of shopper. You may choose to compare shoppers with trolley carts and baskets or any other different type of shopper, but I have chosen trolleys and baskets only. So before we move on to the answer of this question, for any designer study question, there are a certain questions which are important to consider. Those are what and why, who, which is your sample, and how. These are the main questions. The majors and then the minors are where and when. So to answer the first two questions, what and why, I have mentioned that NFIS could conduct a natural experiment. Okay, I have written a few pointers only, but you guys obviously need to write this answer in proper paragraph form. I have just given the pointers for it. So NFIS could conduct a natural experiment to investigate if different types of shoppers feel more or less relaxed. You also need to mention that if it's an experiment, so you always need to keep this in mind, that whenever you are writing about an experiment, you need to mention your independent and dependent variable as well. Like I have done over here, feel more or less relaxed, where his independent variable will be the type of shopper and dependent variable will be their feelings of relaxation. Now now we have covered the what and why part, that he is conducting natural experiment. Why? Because he needs to investigate if different types of shoppers feel more or less relaxed. That is his aim of the experiment. Now for the who part, for the sample, I have chosen opportunity sampling because it is easier, because I have mentioned that the study is going to be conducted outside a busy supermarket. So whoever happens to be there at the supermarket, whoever happens to leave the supermarket at the time when NFIS is present over there, that particular person is going to be the part of his study. So opportunity sampling outside a busy supermarket, so it also covers my where part. Okay, and then there are going to be males and females both, because it is a shopping area, it is a supermarket, and if it's a busy supermarket, so he can easily get 100 participants. So I have just mentioned an estimate of 100 participants. And now for the how part, the whole procedure, he can use Likert scales to have objective data. You need to mention the labels as well. So 1 meaning not relaxed at all, 2 meaning slightly relaxed, 3 meaning relaxed, 4 meaning a bit more relaxed, and 5 meaning very relaxed. Now he can also operationalize how he can operationalize his dependent variable, that less than 3 is going to be counted as not relaxed and or less relaxed, and more than 3, the scores that are more than 3, people who have rated their feeling of relaxation more than 3 will be counted as more relaxed. And then he can have a paper with margins including both the categories, one having shoppers with trolleys or cart, and then the other one having shoppers with baskets. And then he can write the number of participants and how many of them felt more relaxed or less relaxed. And then he can also have a statistical analysis. He can have bar chart with types of shopper on the x-axis, because that is an independent variable, and percentage of people feeling more relaxed in each category on a y-axis, because that is our dependent variable. Now moving on to the last part of the question, it says identify one practical weakness or limitation with the procedure you have described in your answer to part A, and suggest how your study might be done differently to overcome the problem. Do not refer to ethics or sampling in your answer. So you just need to reflect back and read your procedure again. So for the procedure I have given, I think one practical limitation or weakness can be that often what happens oftentimes is that usually people are annoyed when they come out of a supermarket and they find someone having surveys or questionnaires. So people might lie and they just rate any number just to get rid of the study, because usually shoppers are annoyed by the surveys or questionnaires given. And to overcome this study, we have to write it with proper sentences. I've just given the points. So to overcome this practical weakness, what he can do is NFIS could conduct an observation where he already has his behaviors categorized. For example, smiling and saying hello will be counted as feeling more relaxed, and ignoring people and just moving with a straight face or with a frowned face will be counted as not relaxed at all. And then he can basically compare how many people with baskets showed behavior that can be counted as more relaxed, and how many people with shopping carts and trolleys showed the behavior which can be counted as more relaxed, and how many did not. So that is also how he can have proper accurate answers where the participants cannot lie because he himself is observing them, and the participants do not have the choice to give the answers through self-report. So that is it for the paper. I hope you guys understood everything.